What's up, Los Angeles? It's Ryan Dyrud, host of the LA Football Podcast, and support for the LA Football Podcast and the LA Football Network is brought to you by Manscaped. Imagine shaving with a sleek, well-designed, and optimized trimmer that makes shaving time your favorite time in the bathroom. Interesting point there, but I went ahead and read it. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0, and I'm absolutely blown away by the performance, the craftsmanship, and the details on this 4.0 are the next level. LED light for precision guidance, and it's waterproof, so no mess. You can do it in the shower. You're going to get 20% off and free shipping with my code. It's LAFB20 at manscaped.com. Once again, that's 20% off with free shipping. Huge free shipping at manscaped.com. Just make sure you use my code LAFB20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Chargers. Touchdown, UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What's up, LA? It's LAFB After Dark. The LA Football Podcast here in the secondary man cave, the secondary LAFB lounge. I am joined by a muted microphone, the coach who comes on the show with me yet again. Super pumped to be joined by you. What's up, Coach?
Not much, man. Good looking out. I like that. That was smooth.
Right? No one
that
even
was
noticed,
smooth.
maybe.
That's a seasoned veteran move.
So what's up, brother? How you doing, man? Thanks for joining me again.
Of course. Anytime. Doing well. Yeah, things are actually doing really, really good. Things are good. I'm happy, in good moods a lot. It's just life feels like it's going in the right direction.
I love it, dude. I love hearing that. So, for everyone that doesn't know the coach that well, if you weren't a long-time listener to the show, if you're newer, get with it. You should be a long-time listener. Hopefully become one. The coach is great. But besides football, the coach is a diehard TV fan. I'm a big movie guy. The coach is a TV guy. So we didn't plan this pre-show, but I want you to talk to the good people about some good TV you're watching right now. I know we talk some shows all the time, but what's the coach watching right now?
So in terms of like new shows that's on TV right now?
No, just whatever when you're not doing this with me right now, what are you putting on the tube?
Dude, I'm really big right now into Trailer Park Boys. It's super hilarious, and okay. It's been going for a while, and it was one of those just cult classic kind of hole in the wall niche following that just blew up. And it is just so huge. And it's everywhere. They have multiple movies. They have multiple spinoffs. They have an animated series. If you're into just kind of that irreverent, goofy, silly, like it's dumb, but you have to be smart to get it. You have to be smart to understand why that's dumb. Okay. So I call it the Michael Scott effect. That's the Office did that all the time. Made Michael Scott.
Yeah.
What he is anyway, but yeah. So for me, Trailer Park Boys is what I'm watching right now, and there's a few others that I've been keeping track of.
Okay, I like that. I haven't watched it. I'll have to check it out. Right now I'm watching Life in Pieces is a show that randomly my wife put on Hulu when we were like eating breakfast one day just in the background, and I think it aired on like 4 seasons on CBS. Now it's off air, but it's on Hulu. But it's just a super lighthearted. Super funny. James Brolin's one of the lead. I mean, it's a lot of big actually actors and actresses in it. I don't know his name, but a guy from the show The Newsroom, which is one of my favorite shows of all time, is in it. And I love his character. It's a fun show. I know I turned you on to a little bit too, so it's a good one.
You did, yeah. I just started. I'm 4 episodes into it, so I'm still fairly new. But yeah, what I've seen so far, it's chaos, it's hectic, but it's funny, it's lovable, and it's real life. It's what family's all about.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. You said has similar vibes like Modern Family. It definitely has that kind of vibes. Just it's It's not as like crazy as Modern Family, I guess. It's a more, I don't know. It's crazy, but yeah, it's funny.
It's just different. I don't know how it's different, but it's just different than Modern Family somehow.
Exactly.
But it's very similar. Yeah.
So, okay, cool. I like just, having some random conversation before the show starts, but
I like that. That was cool.
Great show for you guys today. We're going to list our top LA football players between the Rams and Chargers. We're going to go 1 through 15. We don't have to go every other, but just the top 15 players in Los Angeles between the Rams and Chargers. And then we're actually in the show with a little UCLA USC talk. It's been a little while. Not a lot goes on in college football in the offseason after recruiting ends. It's not like football where there's free agency or there's draft, or not like pro football, I should say. So we haven't touched on a lot, but hey, we're going to talk a little bit just USC, UCLA, and talk about who we think ends with the better year in the Pac12 South. So before we get into that, as always, LAFB is brought to you by betonline.ag. Head there today on mobile or on desktop. You're going to get a 50% welcome bonus if it is your first deposit. Little secret there, even if you have deposited, maybe just create a new account. Tricks of the trade there. You get another 50% welcome bonus. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
we'll find out.
betonline.ag. Plenty of fun prop bets for the NBA and NHL playoffs. My Nuggets wrapped up Series 1 just tonight. My Avalanche won Game 2 in overtime last night. Teams are looking good. My teams are looking good right now.
You're flying high right now, man.
Yeah.
And when Aaron Rodgers steps into a Denver uniform, you're just going to be sky high.
One would say mile high. One would say.
Oh, see, that's why you're the Don.
Yes, but this is the LA football show, so let's get back to that. So, Coach, players 1 through 15. This was it was hard because it just. I try not to be biased, but we have a lot of talent here in Los Angeles, and so that's what made this hard. But I would think starting at 1 was pretty easy. But I'll let you start. Who do you have ranked, or do you want to go 5th? No, let's start at 1. I don't want to go backwards because I think it's much muddier 10 through 15. I think the beginning will be a little easier to siphon through. So who do you got at 1?
Yeah, we got to start at 1. Everybody knows who 1 is. So why? Yeah, it's Aaron Donald. Absolutely unmatched. It has to be Aaron Donald. He's probably the best in the league. So of course he's going to be best in LA. There's everything that's been said about him. So I don't really know what else to say other than the guy's just an absolute animal. And it's so cool that we've been able to witness his Hall of Fame career, and he's very rarely do you say that guy is a Hall of Famer when he has this much football left, but he's one of them.
Oh yeah, that's the unquestioned the easiest one for this whole list because after this it gets actually pretty dang hard. But number 1, Aaron Donald, is he was drafted what 2011? That's or 2013?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Let me, that's the beauty of podcasts. We can kind of take our time here. And obviously, we know he went to Pittsburgh. He was 2014.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he has a lot of football left.
I should just know that off the top of my head. But anyway, 2014. So the reason why I asked that, so he's played now, 7 seasons or so. If he didn't play another down, is he a Hall of Famer right now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's just sometimes the Terrell Davis factor, right? Yeah. He rushed for over 2,000 yards and he had a lot of stats, which Aaron Donald does too. But they have shortened careers. But sometimes you just know, there's no doubt. Yeah. Short career, that's fine. He deserves to be in there. So yeah, he definitely is heading to Canton if he never plays a down of football again.
I agree. I really hope there's a year where maybe a QB doesn't throw for 5,000 yards and 45 touchdowns so he can actually win MVP because I think he deserves it. But unless unless the top quarterback only has, 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, they're always going to give it to quarterback, no matter what, unfortunately.
Yeah, why not just add another award, quarterback of the year, MVP. MVP cannot be a quarterback. If you win quarterback of the year, then you're the best. They got to do something because Aaron Donald probably deserves more than one MVP.
Yeah. Or still allow MVP to be whoever, but make a quarterback of the year award. So it's not just a given. Maybe they would still, I feel like though, if there was a quarterback of the year award, like you said, then maybe the MVP voting would be more diversified. Whereas since there's no award for quarterbacks, they just automatically vote QBs.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough because Aaron Donald has been the best player in football. And he doesn't have the hardware for it.
Yeah. And there's, like last year, I think Aaron Rodgers was deserving because you take Aaron Rodgers off that team, they're not a 13-3 team. They're probably not even a playoff team. But there's been years where quarterbacks win it, and it's like, well, they're probably still a playoff team even with their backup quarterback. That's how good the team was. Yes, the quarterback statistically had a good year, but yeah. Aaron Donald, the unquestioned best defensive player, arguably the best player, and definitely the best player in Los Angeles between these two teams. Okay, so here's where now it's gonna get crazy. It's gonna go wild here. Who do you got number 2?
So number 2, I went Jalen Ramsay. This was tough, but I went Jalen Ramsay, another Ram back-to-back. That the way he just week by week shuts down the top receiver on the other team. Like you look at the stats, and everybody's seen that image that's of the weekly receivers, the top names: DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, whoever he shuts these guys down, and it's not a fluke. I remember it's just so reminiscent of when Darrelle Revis was at the top of his game. Yeah. It just, it didn't matter who the guy opposite Revis was. Same thing with Ramsey. It doesn't matter who's opposite. He's just not going to have a good game. And so Ramsey is just such a true shutdown corner, and those are hard to find. Yep.
I 100% agree. I have him at number 2 also. The way I can justify it more, because everything you just said is correct, was your number 3. I'll just say my number 3 is Joey Bosa. Was he your number 3?
Yep.
Okay. So why I have Bosa 3 and Ramsey 2, for any Chargers fans listening, I think Ramsey is the unquestioned best corner in the game, in my opinion. Some people might argue, Jair Alexander is really good. There's some other guys up there, but I think it's pretty consensus Ramsey's the best. Joey Bosa, I think, is fantastic, but he's not the best pass rusher in the game. Like, he's behind Donald. Him and his brother are probably tit for tat. Khalil Mack, Myles Garrett, Chandler Jones. You have all these pass rushers. There's an argument for all of them. Bosa is one of them in that argument, but he's not the unquestioned like Jalen Ramsey's the unquestioned. So that's why I had Ramsey 2 and Bosa 3. That was kind of my reasoning.
Yeah, no, that's a similar thought process for me too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why Ramsey 2, Bosa's 3. After everything I just said, he is one of the best pass rushers. He would be the best pass rusher in LA outside of Aaron Donald, even though they play technically different positions. He has that ability for the Chargers to take over games and be a game wrecker. And you can totally see when he's out of the game in these years past, and hopefully with Brandon Staley now being there, he can alleviate some of that. But when he's gone, their pass rush falls flat on its face. I mean, one great example was week 10 it was or whatever against Denver when they're up 21 points. Bosa goes out with a concussion, and all of a sudden Drew Lock and the Broncos offense has a fantastic fourth quarter and comes back and wins by 1 because they could just not get any pass rush without Bosa in there. So that just shows how not only how good he is, but how important he is to this Chargers team. And that's why I have him as the 3rd best player in Los Angeles.
Yeah, he's really good. And, just the fact that he's an edge rusher, and like you said, there's just a lot of talent there. One of the best first steps in the game. Just his off the ball quickness is unbelievable. And he's dealt with injuries too. So, and that for me is kind of, if you can't stay on the field for 16 games or 17 now, I guess, it's hard. But yeah, Joey Bosa, man, is he's a beast.
Yeah.
But it's definitely those 3.
Yeah, I think that, whatever order you have them, I think it's pretty easy. Those are the 3.
Yeah.
Do you think, and there should be this answer, but I'll ask you before, is he, at this point, is Joey still better than his brother Nick?
Oh, yeah, I think I would take Joey over Nick still.
Yeah, I mean, Nick has, 1 year? Because he missed all last year? He's going into his 3rd season, right? So he obviously had a great rookie campaign, but I'm not taking him over Joey yet. And I like Joey's personality better, just the goofy bear.
Right.
Love it. I want to get him on the show so bad. I feel like he'd be great on the show because it's Joey Bosa, but it could totally backfire because he could be that guy that gives you 2-word answers.
Right. I could see that.
Or he could be great. And he could be way more talkative than you expect. So it'd be a real wild card having him on a podcast.
Yeah, I think you would just have to catch him on the right day.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's off season and we're just shooting the shit, I think it'd be fun. But if it's after a game and they lose, I'm like, God, that's the last guy I probably want to there's some guys that no matter what, win-loss, like Austin Eckler, I think is a guy. Win-loss, I think he'd be great. He just is a guy that wants to be at the podium, good talker. Bosa, if they lose, I'm like, if they're like, hey, you want to have Bosa? I'm like, yeah, I'll wait. I'm just going to pass. I don't want to take my one chance after that. Yeah. All right, number 4, who you got?
So my number 4, dude, it was tough, but I went Keenan Allen. He's just such a reliable receiver. He's, he's done it for so long, and I think the injury stuff is behind him.
Yeah.
And the fact that Justin Herbert had the type of year he did, you cannot, devalue what Keenan Allen did for Herbert. Without a guy like Keenan Allen on that roster and on the field, Herbert doesn't have that year. And Keenan Allen has been one of the top receivers in the game for many, many years. He just doesn't get talked about enough.
Oh, I 100% agree. I don't have him at 4. I actually had him at 5, so I'll just talk about him a little bit. One of the best route runners in the game. I think it's him and Devontae Adams, 1A, 1B, however you want to take it. Tremendous hands. He's way faster than he looks. I think he ran like a 4.4 something at the combine way back when he came out of Cal. So he's faster than he looks. He's bigger than he looks. He's stronger than he looks. I remember we did a Madden rating show way back when, and it was right after he got his ratings, and he got like a 60 strength, and he had that like video he put out. I was like, what strength? What is this?
Yeah, that was good stuff.
He looks like he has nice scrawny looking arms, but in reality, he's stronger than that. So, I don't get the disrespect. I don't know if it's just because he's on the Chargers. But I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can only assume that's part of it, but I don't know. I mean, he played with Phillip Rivers, and he was a top tier quarterback, and I don't know. I'm not sure what the reasoning is behind it, but it definitely shouldn't be that way. He's
put up like 1,306 touchdowns almost every single year of his career.
And maybe people want the touchdowns. Maybe they feel like that's too low. I don't know.
I guess. And, and everyone, you said it, but then you also said he's past it. Everyone brings up the injuries. It's like he's played like 60 straight games or something like that. Like he was injured his first 3 seasons off and on.
Yeah.
The last 4 or 5 years, didn't miss a single game.
Yeah, he's been good. So I think that's just more of that's a hard label to rip off you, man. If you get slapped with that label is pretty much going to be there. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, unfortunately, even though if you beat it, I don't know if you saw the graphic going around. It was from Pete Prisco, from an NFL draft columnist, ranking he did his 1 through 100, but then the graphic was just of the receivers where they landed. Did you see that by chance?
I did, yeah. And
okay.
That was.
So they had Keenan Allen. He was 76th among all players. I haven't counted up, but it looks like that puts him at between 15 and 20 out of receivers, which to me is just wrong, just completely wrong. I mean, a lot of the guys in front of him are very good receivers, so it's no disrespect for them, but I mean, no shot. I put any of them, not any of them. I'd put him honestly in between or right around. I'd put like Devontae, probably Julio, and DeAndre, like 1 through 3, and then I put probably Keenan honestly right after that.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely belongs with those guys. I mean, and I don't know if there's a hot take or not, but it might be an obvious take. This is probably the most talented receivers that the NFL has ever had at one point. Like they're everywhere. Yeah. Every team has somebody that is good at catching the football.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
That's what I said. Like, so I'll just briefly, so you got Adams 1, they put Diggs 2. And again, this is just the receivers, not their number ranking. It's like 7-12, but Tyreek Hill 3, Julio Jones 4, Hopkins 5, DK Metcalf 6, Justin Jefferson 7, Allen Robinson 8, Mike Thomas 9, Chris Godwin 10, Mike Evans 11, Calvin Ridley 12, AJ Brown 13, and then Keenan Allen 14. So those are all very good receivers, and it's not like I'm like, oh wow, like that guy is horrible.
Right.
But I think Keenan Allen should be like in the top 5, not 14.
No, I agree. And maybe age was a factor because he has a lot of young guys on there. Jefferson's pretty high, Ridley's pretty high. Those are young guys.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So maybe that was a part of his deal.
I guess. But anyway, so I actually put so like I said, I had Keenan 5. I put 4, and I wrestled with it a lot because of the injury history, which is a stigma which he actually does own. But I put Derwin James 4 just because of when he has played. I think he's a top 2 safety in the game. Like he's that good, that much of a difference maker on the back end for defense. I I wanted to put him lower just because, not wanted to, but I was going to put him lower just because of the injuries. Like, if you're not in the field, kind of how you said it, it's hard to rate these guys higher. But man, with that much talent, if he misses more time, like if he misses again this year, then you start as a Charger organization say, we can't even, like, do we re-sign this guy? It starts to get to that point, unfortunately, which is crazy. But if he can come out and play a full season this year and then start to kind of put that behind him, it'll always follow him, but at least, like, say, okay, I put a full 16 games out there, then we can get back to the conversation of him being a top 2 safety in the game. And that's why I still have him at 4 overall.
Yeah, I agree. I have him at 5, and I was having that debate between he and Allen, the same as you were. And yeah, I think the injuries probably was my, the weight that leaned me toward putting him below Allen. But I agree with you, man. Talent wise, and when he's on the field, the dude is unreal at that safety position. I mean, he can almost do it all. I mean, he's rangy enough to go be a ball hawk, but he's a box safety. He's built like one, but he can do it all. It's crazy. But yeah, just his body is not keeping up, and it's unfortunate because that dude would have changed a lot of games for the Chargers over the last couple of years, and I truly believe that. And they need him to be on that field because those windows close really fast. And man, he's a good safety, and I'm with you though. If he doesn't play, it's going to be hard for them to warrant keeping him around.
I know. So I hope with this new staff, maybe a new training regimen. I know he's doing some new offseason stuff. Obviously now they're back at OTAs. Hopefully that body gets right and he just plays to his body, like the speed and size that he should be at, and maybe before just playing too big or something. So hopefully he just gets that right, and because he's so good and so good in that back end. So number 6, this is probably where things will start. I would assume things start changing for us, but I don't know. I put someone here a little high, but I want to hear who you have. Who do you have at 6?
I went with Stafford. I think he's a hell of a quarterback, and the fact that he has, we've talked about it a little bit on the show before about his array of weapons, and this is probably in terms of a whole group the best talent he's ever had in terms of receiving talent, running back talent, offensive line talent, all at once. None of these guys are better than Calvin Johnson, obviously, but anyway. So yeah, Stafford with these weapons and McVay, who has this really nice quarterback friendly system. I think he's in for a really big year, and if everything goes to plan and Whitworth stays healthy, because that's pivotal. Yeah, they have a good offensive line in front of them, so there's no reason he can't have a 4,000-yard season.
No, yeah, I absolutely agree. This is probably going to sound disrespectful, just because of how much longer he's done it, and we even talked 2 episodes ago about PFF's QB rankings, and I think at the time we were kind of in agreement between where we stacked these two. And then I went back and forth tonight and I actually swapped them. So I have Stafford at 7. At 6, I have Justin Herbert. And I know, fans listening might think that's crazy, but something about what Herbert did last year with just the craziness that was going on with the offseason, the inefficiencies of the coaching staff, the horrible offensive line in front of him, and to still do what he did, breaking every record as a rookie. And again, we have to see it in more years than one, but just seeing what we saw, basing these rankings off that going into this year, I had to put him at 6. I just think there's so much excitement around this kid. He can be an MVP candidate, as Stafford can. I just think Stafford, we know kind of what he is, and I think he's going to have an MVP type season with the Rams because everything you said. But I just think that the ceiling might be higher for Herbert. Obviously, he's got to live up to that. But I mean, it's hard. It's literally I have Herbert 6, Stafford 7. I would not be at all mad swapping them. I think they're both so close, and that's what makes this so fun and covering these teams so fun is the fact that we have 2 superb quarterbacks playing in the city. I mean, it's just great. Very true.
Yeah. Now, and this is I agree because funnily enough, 7 I have Justin Herbert.
Okay.
So yeah, but I'm kind of the same way. Either spot I'm happy with. I just put Stafford a little higher because I think he's in a better spot right now. Herbert talent wise and obviously long-term future is the better quarterback, and I'd still take Herbert over Stafford. But I think 2021 is going to be friendlier to Stafford than it is to Herbert. I think Herbert's going to have a little bit of growing pains, just a new staff. And, he's going to be fine. He's not going to be a bad quarterback. I don't think he's going to take like giant leaps back. I think he's going to progress a little bit, actually. But I just think Stafford is going to be the better quarterback in 2021.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. It kind of depends how you wanted or how you kind of did these rankings of, who's going to be better in 2021 or who are you tanking on your team right now? Yeah. And I think either way is interchangeable. You might take one or the other, and you might also say one or the other has a better season this year. So,
right.
Both are great. I think that's totally good spots for either of them. 6 and 7, take your pick. And so we went the opposite. So, moving on to 8. You go ahead. You start.
For 8, I went with Andrew Whitworth.
These are way more similar than I expected. I have Andrew Whitworth today. I'm kind of surprised.
I am too, a little bit, to be honest with you, because I had a tough time, and I just figured we're going to have a lot different. But great minds, I guess. But no, Whitworth, obviously, he's been that staple left tackle and that staple offensive line glue man. That injury conversation, though, it's been what's plagued him the last couple of years, and obviously age is a factor. It always will be. Yeah. And when you get to that certain point. So, and playing the position he does, man, it's crazy that he's able to play at the level he plays at when healthy at his age. He's a rare talent, and he's done it for a long time. And he's probably one of the top tackles in the league when he's on the field. But yeah, I mean, he hadn't been reliable in terms of health.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully he'll break that this year. Is he a Hall of Famer in your opinion?
That one's tough. That would be
offensive linemen are hard to really.
They are, and I think he probably, if you were to really analyze and dig in, he's probably worthy of it. But that's going to be tough because there's so much talent. It's going to be retiring soon and eligible, and it's going to be tough for him to get in. I could maybe I don't know. That's tough.
Offensive line's hard because if you're not like the best at your position for like 7 to 10 years, like you wait a while just because they go with the guys with the stats and this and that. And so, but I think he will get in at some point. I don't know if he'll be a first ballot, but I think especially if he plays out the rest of his contract, which is 2 years, and the Rams are winning a Super Bowl, I think he gets in for sure. But
a ring would boost that rapidly. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It would change a lot of stuff.
A ring, and I think that would put him at 18 years of playing at tackle in the NFL. That's insane.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have him at 8 too. Health has been a little bit of an issue, but we talked to him a few weeks ago, had him on the show. He said he was 100% good to go. He's looked great in OTAs. All indications are he's a leader on that team. He's a vocal. He's part of the NFLPA. He's a Walter Payton Man of the Year nomination almost every single year. So he's super involved in the community. So aside from what he brings on the field, is what he brings on the sideline, what he brings in the locker room, what he brings to the city. I think he's just such an integral value. And I love Andrew Whitworth and excited to see what he does. And so he's right now the best offensive lineman in Los Angeles, we say, still at the ripe age of 39 years old, which is crazy. But I'll just piggyback off that, and I have at number 9, I have the next offensive lineman, and I went Corey Linsley, the newly signed center, all-pro center, so the best center in the NFL according to that AP ranking from Green Bay. Haven't seen him play it down yet for the Chargers, so that does make me a little wary of this because we've seen the Chargers have good signings in the past and them not work out. But considering how reliable he's been, considering the fact that he was not just a good center, but an all-pro center, I have him right here at number 9, which I think for me is a good spot for him.
No, I was very close. I had him at 11. So I'll go ahead and just touch a little bit on him. Yeah, just the fact that he's a transplant. This is a new team, new scheme. But based on past seasons, the dude is definitely worthy of being a top player in LA, and he just stepped foot here. So, he's played with Aaron Rodgers, and he's been trusted with protecting him, and obviously he was a major part of the MVP season. He is definitely one of the top offensive linemen in the NFL.
Yeah, and one thing to add about him too that we've heard so far in OTAs is just how smart and cerebral he is. Obviously, playing the trenches is a physical game, but you have to know all the calls, all the protections. I mean, you're the you're the leader on that offensive line, communicating with your quarterback. And so the fact that he already has that, it sounds like down pat and picked it up, and he's coaching other guys in the offensive line because they have an entire, literally other than Brian Bulaga, they have 4 other starters on that line. And even Bulaga missed essentially half the season off and on. And they're putting a whole new offensive, not a whole new, they're taking, stuff from the last one, but installing new concepts and stuff. So I think that's huge too. So I think that plays into how good he is and how great he'll be, hopefully here in LA for a long time.
Yeah, hopefully for the Chargers have done a nice job of rebuilding that offensive line. That's that can't go unnoted either.
Yeah. So, all right, who you got at 10? Well, first, before you do, just got to say the LA football player rankings brought to you by Garrison Brothers Whiskey. Coach, I don't think you've had it yet, but you'll be trying it here soon. I'm bringing some to you. I'm sipping on it right now. Absolutely fantastic. Well, there'll be a link in the description. You can get it at Bevmo, Total Wine, or order directly from the website, or just click the link that we're going to leave below, and you can order it there. It's been compared to Pappy Van Winkle. Have you heard of Pappy Van Winkle?
I can't say I have.
So Pappy Van Winkle's like between $1,300 and like $4,000 for a bottle. It's crazy expensive. It's super
no wonder
rare.
I've never heard of it.
Exactly. Nothing me and you are ever buying. The only honestly time I've heard about it is in that movie, The Internship, with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn, and they get a bottle of Pappy after they get jobs at Google. But Garrison Brothers profile has been compared to that, and it's a fraction of the price, so you can't beat it. So head to GarrisonBrothers.com or to our link, like I said, or we have it on the LAFB Network website. All right, number 10, my friend. Go right ahead.
I think I'm on number 9.
You're right. You're right. I said 9 first this time.
So I have Cam Akers. I don't know if that might be a little high, but I'm a big Cam Akers fan. Even when he was the top, I think he was the top running back in his class when he went to Florida State. But he was, 5-star at Florida State, just porous offensive line, a transition of coaching staffs, and just not a good time. But he stuck it out. Dude, a 5-star prospect could have easily entered that transfer portal and landed anywhere and been the starter. But he stuck it out. He stuck to his commitment. Says a lot about the kid. Says a lot about the character.
Oh yeah.
And then the football player, man. I think he really finished strong last year for the Rams, and I think, dude, he could be a really big breakout candidate, and I like him a lot. I like Cam Akers.
Oh, Cam Akers is great. I'll touch on him later. But you had him. If I recall, when you do draft stuff, you had him as your number 1 rated running back 2 years ago, right?
He was 1 or 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think in the actual draft, not mixing my draft stuff, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire went first. He was the only first-round running back taken. And then I want to say, like, DeAndre Swift went. There was a few that went before him because he went at 52.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor went before him. Swift. Yeah, so I remember. Yeah,
Dobbins maybe went also before him.
Yeah, I think Dobbins did too.
But Cam Akers could end up being the best of the lot. I agree with you, and especially with the system he's in LA. But I'll touch more on him later. So I had at 10 now. I went Bobby Trees, Robert Woods. He's just so reliable. Another guy that doesn't get a ton of. I wouldn't say he's disrespected because he's not like a superstar. He's just a reliable. He does the dirty work in the blocking game. If you need a first down on third down, he's the guy you're going to go for. Great hands, great route runner. Again, fascinating looks, has bigger size than he actually looks. Going back to number 2 this year, going back to his USC days. I love it. So I got Bobby Trees at 10. I think he's one of the most reliable receivers in the game. Maybe not, a top 10 or 15 receiver, but certainly up there and number 10 in Los Angeles.
Nice. I have a Rams receiver, but it's not Robert Woods. I have Cooper Kupp at 10. I like Cooper Kupp. I was a big fan of him as well, coming out of Eastern Washington. Yeah. And he surprised quite a few people with how quickly he was able to adapt to the NFL game. And I didn't think he was going to be that good that fast either. I thought he was going to be good like down the road. I thought he was going to be more of an Adam Thielen type of projection. But Cooper Kupp has been nothing but solid, trustworthy, and reliable ever since he's been in that starting rotation. And I think he's very worthy of being a top 10 player in LA.
Yeah. So I went Cooper Kupp 11. I feel like I always have Woods and Kupp, like, because they're so similar. They both get literally their stats every year are like almost identical. It's just like, all right, 1 week Woods is going to have a better game. 1 week Kupp. It's whoever's in the scheme that week or the install that week. But you said it all. I love Cooper Kupp. Great route runner, great hands. I don't want him to see him returning punts anymore. That needs to stop. Keep him doing what he's good at.
Let's not reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, exactly.
Settle down.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he had such a phenomenal year after that tough injury in 2018, and then coming back in 2019 for like 1,300 yards and almost double-digit touchdowns, I believe, just shows. I don't think he's injury prone. He had the one injury, and then he's been healthy since. And B, just he's fully back and ready to go, and already making great catches in OTAs for Matthew Stafford. So excited to see what he does. What both these guys do now with a better quarterback. I don't want to throw shit at Goff, but an upgraded quarterback.
Yeah, 100%. I think Woods, and I have Woods very close. And I've already gone over my 11. That was Corey Linsley out, and I'll just tell you, I had Woods at 12. So yeah, he was, Cup was 10, Woods was 12, and I'm right there with you. They're very similar.
There you go. So hit that well. So okay, so your 11 was Corey Linsley. Your 12 is Robert Woods. My 12, I put Leonard Floyd, who former 8th overall pick by the Bears. Pretty much not a good career with the Bears. Signed a 1-year deal with the Rams last year. Had a really good year. I think a lot of that is due to playing with Aaron Donald. But I think he does more than just what you see in the stat sheet. I think he's good against the run. He can drop back in passes. We saw him used in a number of different ways in Brandon Staley's system. I think we'll see that same in Raheem Morris's system this year. So he may not, he's not going to be a top 5 sack leader, but he's going to be a double-digit sack guy in the system. Just extremely lengthy, long, athletic. And I think he really revived his career here in LA, and obviously he got paid for it. So he needs to be a top 15 player with the contract he has. So maybe I put him in his rankings too because of that contract, just saying, hey, dude, you need to be if you're not a top 15 player in LA with what you're making, then we have a problem. But right now I'm good putting him there because of the season he had.
Yeah, I actually didn't have him on my list. And maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's just an overlook. But based on the other guy, and I'm really interested to hear your opinion based on who I have versus him, just to see if you agree or not. But so my 13, I went with Michael Davis from the Chargers, the corner. I like him. I think he's a really good up and coming young cornerback.
Vato.
I think he's
Vato, his nickname. Yeah.
Well, dude, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that, but
yeah.
And the fact that, and I don't know if he'll change or not, but I love that he wears 43 as a corner. I think that's cool as hell. But no, I think he's a talented kid, and I think the best football is in front of him.
I love Mike Davis. He barely missed my top 15. I think I probably would have had him like 16, or I could have taken one of these guys out, but no, you're absolutely good to have. Once we're down to this point, 12 and beyond, I think 12 through 20, you could really interchange some of these guys because it's close. But Mike Davis was the most consistent corner for the Chargers all last year. Casey Hayward, I wouldn't even say up and down. He was pretty down most of the year. Chris Harris up and down, obviously faced injuries too. Mike Davis was the most consistent guy. He was really their true number one as the season went on, and he got better and better. And the fact that they re-signed him, and that was with the new coaching team there. So with Brandon Staley there, and they re-signed him saying, I want this guy to run my system because I think he can do great, just shows, I think, how much more potential he even has. So, yeah, I didn't have him just because it was what we saw from 1 year. And I think the other guys I have on here have proven more of their career so far. But he's a great pick for the top 15. I think he will be in the top 15 for a while now to come.
I love it.
Yeah, good stuff. That was 13?
That was my 13, yeah.
Okay, so my 13, this will probably be met with some criticism just because of the year he had last year, but I put Chris Harris Jr., a guy that's had the career he's had, really has been healthy his entire career, and has had a freak ankle injury last year, which caused him to miss 6 games. And then, coming back from injury, could never really get, in the flow, I don't think. Gus Bradley, I don't think Gus Bradley did any of his defensive backs any favors by what he was, installing out there. So kind of hung him out to dry, hung Casey Hayward out to dry a lot. They were just so beat up on the back end, and him kind of coming over, they were saying he's going to play the slot, and they had him kind of play the outside some. So if he can truly play the slot this year, like I think they'll have him do, I think he'll get back to, yes, he's getting older, but he's still, 32, 30. He's not like he's 40. So right. The guy can still play. He's on his contract year, so he's going to be, out to prove that he can still play and get probably one more big contract before he's just on vet mins after that. So I think this is probably more of a just respect out of what he's done for 10 seasons prior. So Chris Harris Jr., I have at 13.
No, that's a good one, but not on my list. But I agree with, and obviously Rock Chalk, baby. You know, I'll always be a big Chris Harris fan. He's definitely, I'm with you. Like he would fall somewhere between 16 and 20 for me. He needs to bounce back because definitely he definitely the down year. But yeah, there's a lot to play into that. But hopefully, he's a big candidate to bounce back and have a big year because he's very skillful and that whole age thing, man. In this day and age, I think we're going to see that age where players start to retire and break down, kind of start getting older and older and older. Like I think we could start seeing guys play at 35 and be like, oh yeah, he's fine. Just with medicine or not, medicine, rehab, and all that stuff, man. They just
and with how light the offseason programs are, like they're not having to go hard anymore. They wear what? They don't wear pads till week 2 of training camp now. Like
right, yeah. I just think the longevity of careers is gonna increase.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I think he's been one of my. I talked on our live show LAFB Live on Saturday. We did breakout players. And it's rare you have a 11-year vet as a breakout player, but he's only his second year at the Chargers and obviously had a down year last year. So he was one of my breakout guys. I think he's going to have it's probably better to say a comeback year, but I think he's going to have a great year this year. And this system is so friendly. He knows, obviously, Staley. He knows Ronaldo Hill, who was his DB coach back in Denver also. So I just think he's going to ball out this year.
Yeah, totally agree. And we don't need to get into a debate of what a breakout player is or not. But Chris Harris, I think he'll have a good year.
Yeah. Okay. 14. 14. Who you got?
So I have Kenneth Murray for the Chargers. I think he's a thumper, man. He racks up those tackles. I know he's a young guy. He hadn't really done it a lot. He's not have a lot of experience, but I think for what the Chargers need, they really lacked that interior presence in the linebacking core for a while. And I think Kenneth Murray is finally that guy. I think he's going to be that generational leader of that defense for the next 10 years. And I really am excited to see what he does in 2021 and coming off of a year like he had last year.
I absolutely love Kenneth Murray. I love he went back to number 9, repping, Oklahoma. You said everything about him. He's fantastic side to sideline. I would have him also like in that 16 to 20 right now, just because, we got a lot of good players here in LA, but I think he's going to be so good. And they've talked all OTAs about, they want to use him in the pass rush more. They want to use him they want to use him everywhere. Like they don't want to pigeonhole him to a certain thing just because of how athletic he is, which is what is going to make him so good because he can do it all. He's not, we're gone in the NFL for the most part of, the Ray Lewises of the linebackers as great. I don't want to say anything about Ray Lewis, one of the best ever, but that's not how linebackers are nowadays for the most part. And so Kenneth Murray is the new generation linebacker that can really do anything you want him to. And it's going to be fun to watch, but
dude, yeah, the game is really now being played beyond the hash marks where it used to be played in between them. And when you have guys that you need outside of the hash marks, the Ray Lewises and the Brian Urlachers and, the guys that lack that lateral quickness and the lateral mobility, they're going to see them start to fall by the wayside, and athletic freaks are going to start taking over. And the game is definitely using every inch of that field now, not like it used to.
Yeah. And there's linebackers like that, like the Rams, 3rd round pick, Ernest Jones, who are more that traditional linebacker, and they'll still have a place in the NFL, but they're not your 3 down, do whatever you want. They have a role, if you will. Yeah. Kenneth Murray doesn't have a role. He's going to be able to do just set him loose.
Yeah.
I kind of regretting not having a top 15, but he's in that top 20. He's going to be so good. But okay, so for me, 14. So for me, rounding out my 15, I went with the running backs. So I have Austin Eckler 14, Cam Akers 15. Eckler's probably there's probably some debate on him just because of his size, but I just think what he brings the offense in the running game and the passing game. He's a better runner than people give him credit for. He's stronger than people give him credit for. But obviously his prowess comes to his passing game, or what he does in the passing game. And I know Joe Lombardi has talked about him so far that he wants to make him like Alvin Kamara, which we've seen Austin Eckler have great seasons, but no one's ever really said he can be as good as Alvin Kamara. But why not? I mean, he's similar in stature, similar in speed. And we see what Alvin Kamara does in New Orleans. We see what Christian McCaffrey does for the Panthers. And Austin Eckler, I think, can get to that. And he's healthy again. So he's who I have at 14. And then I have Cam Akers at 15, who you kind of touched on him, just how great he is. And I think Cam Akers is going to go up this list. But after missing half the season, just from what we saw, and had a tremendous end of the season. But I just want to see more from Cam for him to go up the list. I just want to see a little more consistency week to week. Because I think he had against the Patriots like 137 yards, and he had like 650 total. So basically, a fifth of his yardage came in one game. So getting that on a consistent basis, but also that was some of the, offensive scheme and trying to utilize three backs all rotating. And I think he'll be a much more set role going into this year. So that's why I have my list, both the running backs, Eckler than Akers.
I like that. That's a good way to end it. But so for my 15, I think you're going to love this pick. I'm not going to lie to you. I threw this in as a Ryan Dyrud pick. This is 100% for you. Johnny Hekker. I went with the punter. Yeah.
No, you did not. You went a punter?
I went a punter at 15 just for you, buddy.
Wow, what a guy.
Just for you. But not just any punter. Johnny Hekker, arguably one of the best punters in the game. I know he struggled last year, and as much as punters can struggle, but let's see what Hekker can do. Let's see if he can bounce back and have a Pro Bowl type of year. Hopefully not, because you don't want a Pro Bowl punter.
Is he a Hall of Famer?
No.
I mean,
not until they put a special teams wing in the Hall of Fame. No.
It's hard to constitute, a Hall of Fame punter.
You have to differ. You have to because there are guys that belong, but if you're going to be putting them up against Peyton Manning and Brett, or Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, they're not going to get in. They're not getting in. So you need to do something to allow these guys to get in. Like if they do belong. Obviously,
this doesn't happen because the retirement years are off. But say Johnny Hekker and Phillip Rivers are in the same class, and I know there's a big debate about Phillip Rivers. Is he a Hall of Fame quarterback? No rings, very few, playoff wins, kind of a stat guy, but also had a lot of interceptions. There's that debate. But if you get to that point and Johnny Hekker gets in and Phillip Rivers doesn't, then that's like, what are we doing here? I love Johnny Hekker, but what are we doing here?
I don't even have the words. I don't even know what I would say. That would be the most topsy-turvy NFL Hall of Fame induction ever.
Yeah. So interesting. All right. Well, there you go. That was your 15, you said, right?
That was my 15.
Okay. I mean, I love it. You love the respect to the punter. Johnny Hekker is one of the best in the game. So let us know what you think. Hit us up on Twitter. You got the main account at LAFB Network, myself at Ryan Dyrud LAFB, or the coach. What is it, at Coach Graf 34?
Yes, sir. Coach Graf 34 Twitter handle.
Yeah, hit us up. Let us know what we got wrong, what we got right, who'd we forget. We'd love to hear all your guys' thoughts, or just comment below if you're watching on YouTube or listening on anywhere you get your podcast. All right, Coach, let's go ahead and wrap this episode of the LA Football Podcast up. Talking a little college ball. It's been a while. USC, UCLA, brought to you by Brewery X, based in Anaheim, California, on the Brewery Trail, La Palma Brewery Trail, right by Angel Stadium and Honda Center. Over 30 beers on tap. They got 10 seltzers. They have something called Hardest Seltzers. They're 10%. Things are going to F you up. They got one called Jungle Juice, brings you back to the college days. But if you're more traditional, they have a lot of phenomenal beers. They have a great Mexican lager they make there called SOS. They have some great Pilsner, some great Hefeweizens, tons of IPAs. So make sure to check out Brewery X in Anaheim. You can go to the link in the description below. They also have a phenomenal lunch menu also. So USC, UCLA. USC had a phenomenal recruiting class. We and you haven't talked about it much, but I think they're right now sitting at 7 total in the nation for this year's recruiting class. UCLA had a quieter recruiting class. I think they're in the 30s, but they hit on some good guys. I mean, they're returning. They're only losing Demetri Felton and Oso Odigizua are the only two guys lost from last year. They were starters. Obviously, I think they had a few transfers in the transfer portal, but the guys that started, those are the only two they lost. So quieter recruiting trail, but returning a lot of good players. So this segment, we're going to keep it short and sweet kind of, but start off with this. Who's having the better year? Obviously, every year USC is the favorite, but I think UCLA is going to surprise some people. But I want to hear from you. I don't know how much you've looked at these two teams over the last 6 months or whatever since they stopped playing in December. But how are you feeling about this upcoming Pac-12 season?
Yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of good football in the Pac-12, man, especially in the South. And primarily UCLA, USC, man, they're both talented. I'm really, DTR, he's been a controversial quarterback since he's been there. just in terms of his, on the field play and whatever. But man, I think the kid, you play long enough, you're going to start just veteran and experience. You're going to start making better decisions. And I think he's going to be that guy. He's going to be a good quarterback. I don't know if he'll ever, be that top tier quarterback that everybody kind of thought he may be. But he'll be good enough to win them a lot of games. He's going to have some competition now with Garbers coming to town from Washington. And that kid is talented. I don't know how well he fits into Chip's scheme. That's kind of debatable, but he's a talented quarterback. He's a much better thrower than DTR is, but he can run too a little bit. But no, UCLA, man, I'm looking at Sean Ryan, I'm looking at Chase Cota and Kyle Phillips. I think those three are the ones that are going to drive that offense. And if those three have big years, they're going to have a good year. And I don't know, 7-8 wins.
Yeah. So, okay, we'll talk about each team, and then we'll end it with just like who's better between the two.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'll talk about UCLA since you started with them, and I'm excited about this UCLA squad, man. I mentioned they're only losing two guys, returned basically their entire offensive line that was so improved last year. Their offensive line was probably not a lot talked about. Just the Pac-12 wasn't really talked about much anyway. Just they only had 6 games in the COVID 6 or whatever you want to call it. But the offensive line was very improved. Britton Brown, I think, is going to have a great year. He was kind of the 1B to Demetric Felton's 1A, or the thunder to the lightning, if you will. But now he'll be the true guy, along with some transfers they got over. But I think Britton Brown's poised for a great year. Defense returning literally everyone but Oso Digizua. So that defense that was so awful 2 years ago. When you were co-host of the show, we talked a lot. Every week it was like, man, if this defense could just like stop anyone, this team could win some games. And the defense was just, DTR made so many bonehead mistakes, and the defense was like an open fence, if you will. And they improved dramatically. And then now to have a true off season, already in spring ball, losing only one starter, I'm extremely excited to see how this defense is. And then the last one, DTR. I think we saw a huge jump last year. That week 1 game, which I'm not mistaken, was against Colorado. And that first half was like, okay, DTR needs to not be the quarterback of this team anymore. Like, he had like 3 turnovers in the first half, probably 3 other plays that should have been turnovers. It was just like classic DTR. It's like, what are you doing? Second half comes out. They make it within a score to win the game. Like, it was one of those UCLA Washington State games. I don't know if you watched it or not, but brought him all the way back, and you're like, okay, that's why he still starts, because he's electrifying. But then after that, and then he missed some time with COVID, but when he played again, he was a lot more consistent, and like still some questionable stuff. You could see the growth. You could start seeing the growth. And again, like you said, at some point, he's going to be a smarter quarterback, because he's now in his 4th college season, his 5th actual season playing. Because he played 1 year in Vegas before, Bishop Norman, before being recruited here. So it's still a very raw guy. So I'm super hyped on him this year. I think no one's talking about him, and I think maybe this is a hot take. I'm just going to say it. He could, at the end of the year, be one of those guys that all of a sudden climbs in a draft. I'm not saying like first overall pick, but climbs into that QB draft talk of like, oh, here's a guy that all of a sudden had a 1 great season. We've seen it a lot now in college football, where all a quarterback needs is 1 great year to turn heads for NFL scouts. He could have 1 great year this year, which I think he's going to have, and we could talk about him being a potential NFL prospect, which, less than 365 days ago, you probably wouldn't even think he'd be a walk-on guy. So I'm excited. And I think the fact of having Chase Garbers pushing him, having Parker McQuarrie, who was a recruit last year out of New Hampshire, I believe, pushing him, having Chase Griffin, who's the former Gatorade Player of the Year in Texas, who played some last year, pushing him, is just going to make him that much better. So I rambled a lot, but I'm pumped about this UCLA team. I think they're still not getting love in the South. It's USC, it's Arizona State, it's Utah, who's obviously going to be much better. Utah with Kyle Whittingham's always a good team, but I think UCLA is going to surprise some people. I think this is a good squad that isn't getting a lot of credit yet, which is probably how they want it. Yeah,
I think so, and you're right. And the offensive line is the key, man. That offensive line with Sean Ryan and everybody else falling in line. I think that's the factor. That's what's going to win them the games that people aren't expecting them to win. And I'm with you. I think they are going to be better. Man, that is a hot take with DTR. I kind of like it, though, because I dig it. Like, I could totally see it happening. I could totally see him being that guy that explodes, and everybody's like, oh, okay, he's the next thing. I love it. I think that's awesome.
And I've talked to a few beat reporters for the Bruins about spring ball, and they've said he's looked really good. And again, it's spring ball, but They said he's looked really good so far.
Well, hey, anything can happen, man. It's a crazy world, and I'm looking forward to Charbonnet being back in town. I think I'm pronouncing his name right, but
yeah,
I think it's silent T. I hope so.
No, I think it is. It's French for sure.
Right?
Yeah. So yeah, those that don't know, transferred from Michigan back home after going to Oaks Christian. He'll be with UCLA. And yeah, I think that's again a transfer probably not being talked about a lot, but with Britton Brown and him, that's a good running back room.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
UCLA, they have a good offense. They have a solid defense, and yeah, they're going to be a good team.
Yeah, and this is, I want to say Chip Kelly's. I think he has 2 more years on his contract, so this is prove it time. UCLA is not one of those programs that's going to, they're going to let guys ride out just financially. They're not going to, in their football program anyway, they're not going to, be paying 2 or 3 coaches who are fired. They're letting their guys ride out. But this is the time where it's like, especially with the new AD Martin Jarman, who I think has been phenomenal since he's been there. Phenomenal AD. But this is kind of that prove it year. Like, okay, all right, coach, we saw some improvement last year. This is the jump year where they got to for sure make a bowl game. And I think they need to compete for that Pac-12 South. And I think they will. So USC, though, another kind of prove it. Clay Helton, it got retained by Mike Bone. Me and you love the Mike Bone hire. We talked about it when he was brought on. They obviously lost the bowl game last year, but were undefeated before that. But, some questionable wins. They still won. That's all that matters. But they weren't dominant. What's your thoughts on USC this year?
They're going to be good. I don't think they're going to take a lot of steps backward. I know Slovis was, hit or miss last year, I feel. I think he's going to be a lot more consistent this year. I think I don't know if you want to call it that sophomore slump, whatever. I know I feel like he struggled more than he did his freshman season. But man, he's got Drake London. He's got Brew McCoy. He's got, even though they've lost a couple, they still have a really good running back room. And I think, obviously, you'll know more than me, but the Elijah Vera Tucker, that's going to be a big replacement. That's a big hole to fill. That's a good offensive lineman that you got to find a replacement for. But I think the biggest thing is just the defense. I'm really looking forward to seeing Corey Foreman and Drake Jackson, man, coming off those edges. I think that's going to be really, really fun to see.
The defense is going to be so again. Think about USC. Those that don't follow a lot, because usually how do I say this? I don't want to say tepid, any casual USC fan, they just see Clay Helton and, write him off essentially. Like, oh, this is horrible. Clay Helton doesn't know what he's doing. Last offseason, Clay Helton, to his credit, revamped his coaching staff. Brought in Vic So'oto for the defensive line, obviously brought in Todd Orlando for the defense, brought in some different offensive guys, basically revamped the entire defensive side, revamped the special teams, and this new coaching staff. Say what you want about Clay Helton. I don't want to get into that right now, but the new coaching staff is fantastic. I think it's one of the best coaching staffs in the Pac-12. And I didn't even bring up probably their best coach, who's their secondary coach and arguably the best recruiter in the nation, Dante Williams, who since he's been added is just, I think that's why I think part of the reason why you saw the recruiting go up so well was there was some actual belief that Clay Helton was going to be around. 2 years ago, there was so much unknown. Was he going to be fired with the new AD? Was he going to be capped? So hard to recruit when you don't even know if that's going to be the coach of the team. So I think that helped. But Dante Williams, Vic Soto, obviously, my love for the offensive coordinator. So I think having those guys there helps. And that defense is just, they're fast. They fly to the football. They're good at tackling. Their biggest thing is, cut down the penalties because of how fast that defense plays. But you said it with Corey Foreman and Drake Jackson. Whew. That defensive line is going to be fun to watch. The number 1 recruit in the nation, Corey Foreman.
Yeah, man, and they like those Southern California high schools, man. They produce those edge rushers. Kayvon Thibodeau from Oaks Christian went to Oregon, and then Corey Foreman went to Centennial. Man, I think Foreman is going to have that type of Thibodeau type of impact just right off the get go. Yeah,
absolutely. So, and the last thing I'll say about the offense. Keaton Slovis was, up and down last year. The ball just didn't look, was he coming off an injury? It never really truly came out. There was some reporting that he was saying that the balls just felt slicker last year. And that's why for the lot of ducks he was throwing. But I think he will be improved with a true full offseason. Maybe he was one of those, coming off such a great freshman year, maybe, a little lack of, I don't want to say lack of effort, but sometimes you get a little lax in your preparation, and maybe he'll turn that around. I think also the biggest thing is the addition of Jackson Dart and Miller Moss. They're two big quarterback recruits who, everything I am hearing, Miller Moss looks good. Jackson Dart looks fantastic. I'm hearing he looks super good. Dude, I don't know if you know about his high school, but he had like 5,000 yards and 60 touchdowns his last season.
Is this the one that, is he from Utah?
Yeah.
The Camp?
Yeah.
Okay,
I can't remember the school, but he's from Utah. Yeah. 60 touchdowns.
That's ridiculous. I think they had a game of his on TV I caught, and I think he threw like 7 in that one, I think.
Yeah. So
it was
essentially meaning the last 2 years when Keaton was a freshman and a sophomore, like he was it. You're not putting anyone, there was no one on the roster that was even challenging him. Like,
and had JT not gone down, he never would have been.
Yeah, exactly. But then JT transfers, so I mean,
right.
you're not putting Matt Finken over Keaton Slovis, whereas now you have 2 freshmen that can both ball. That best case scenario, they just push Keaton Slovis to be great. Worst case, but still not horrible. If Keaton Slovis struggles 2 games in, put in the freshman, see what the future looks like. So that I think Keaton Slovis is gonna be a lot better though. I think that's not gonna happen. I think he's gonna play a lot better.
Can I put you on the spot real quick with a question? Keaton
Please.
Slovis is the starter. Who do you think has a better year, Slovis or JT Daniels for Georgia?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Right?
I think because of the offense USC runs and with the receivers they have, I think Drake London's going to be a Blitnikoff finalist. I think Drake London is so good. You know how much I loved him as a freshman.
Yeah,
so
you were high on him, and you were right. You were right on the money.
The fact that he's like balling out now, but I think statistically speaking, Slovis, just because of the system they run. But I think JT Daniels is going to be really good for Georgia. I think it's going to work out. It works out for both guys.
And it's funny when I know he's an old ex-USC guy, but just real quick, when you said the DTR being that guy that creeps into that first-round conversation, I think that could be JT Daniels. He might already be there in some circles, but I think if he has a really, good, productive, maybe even a fringe Heisman season, dude, that he might be top 5 consideration.
Yeah, I agree. There you go. And that'd be such a good story too for what he went through.
It would. It really would. I don't know JT, but I just, from seeing him on the field and coming from modern day and just, you always want to see kids be successful. You never want to see a kid fail.
Yes. Well, especially just because it was based on a bad injury. Like it wasn't
right.
Horrible. So I think the fact that he didn't start from the beginning at Georgia was odd to me, but he definitely gave that team a spark and he'll be good. But to answer your question, statistically, I think Keaton goes better just being year 3 in the system. How they run things and having arguably, I think, one of the best receivers in the nation is going to help. So, all right, let's wrap it up with this. First of all, so 2 things. Does an LA team win the Pac12 South, or do you think it's ASU or Utah or someone else? And B, or 2, which of the LA teams does win the Pac12 South, if it is one of them, or if not, just who finishes better?
Well, I think it's gonna, and I don't know the rosters top to bottom, but just from what I do know, it's gonna come down in the South. I think Arizona State and USC. I think it's those 2. So I do like UCLA. I think they make a bowl game. I think they're gonna be better. I think they'll compete. Like they'll be in that conversation for the South, but they'll just be like a game or 2 back. They may be like that 3rd spot. But no, I think it's gonna be Arizona State or USC, and I think that's gonna be a battle, man. That could be a fun one. That could be a classic.
Yeah, I heard Jaden Daniels put on like 20-something pounds, so he's looking good at quarterback, who obviously has immense talent, but was just like a toothpick out there last year. So that's going to be scary. I think Utah is going to be much better. Their biggest question mark is like, I don't really know anything about their quarterback situation, which I'm sure they've got figured out. I just don't know. But Utah is going to be much better, have a lot of returning starters from last year who were first-time starters last year because they lost so many in the draft prior, and they're just always so well coached. But I think, and here we are in June. June, what are we? June 3rd? I think
June 3rd.
Based on June 3rd, so this can definitely change. The winner of the Battle of LA this year being at the Coliseum will win the Pac-12 South. So it's going to be between USC, UCLA, both teams having a great year, hopefully undefeated at that point, so we can finally have like a true division rivalry. The last one we saw last year was a fantastic game, back and forth. USC ended up winning it, but UCLA led for most of the game. DTR looked great. I want to see that type of game again, and the winner of it wins the Pac-12 South to go on to the Pac-12 championship. Me, I'm always full of hot takes. Let's keep the fire going, baby.
Keep it going. Stoke it a little bit. Stoke it. I love it. I could totally see it. It's, I just said it, they could finish third. If they could finish third, they could finish one, right? Like, it's not that far-fetched for the UCLA Bruins to have that miracle type of season where they just start rolling through people like hot butter or hot knife through butter. And kind of like, I'm not saying they're going to go win a national championship, but LSU was not expected to be that good in 2019.
Yeah.
Like, people thought they were going to be good, but that team was legendary, generational. UCLA could be similar, just on a lower scale within the realms of the Pac-12. They could be that team, just have that miracle season where it's just like nobody really saw that coming.
Yep, exactly. So when it's said and done, if I just have to give an answer, I think USC wins it. But I think it's going to come down to the battle for LA at the Collie. Hopefully we'll be there drinking some Brewery X and Garrison Bros and having a great time for an LAFB tailgate. So I think it's a great point to put a stamp on it. End this episode of the LA Football Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen. We are everywhere you listen. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, also on YouTube at LAFB Network. Make sure to follow us on all the socials at LAFB Network. I am at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. You can find the coach at Coach Graph 34. Appreciate you as always, my man. Thanks for jumping on. I'm glad we're doing this more often. And I hope you just have a fantastic night. So thank you.
Hey, thank you as well, dude. You have a good night as well. And as always, I'm looking forward to the next conversation.
It's always great. A blast. So thank you all for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. This is the LA Football Podcast. We'll talk to you here in just a few days.